Garrett Blevins here with an overview of the final day of the first day of kind of the peaking into the meet. This is a little bit longer peaking cycle than I'm used to. Volume is kind of being slowly reduced throughout the program, but I'm definitely hitting some heavier weights as the weeks go on. Here you see my last warm-up. That was 495 for a single. I noticed as I was filming from this angle that a little bit less depth than I would like on some of these squats, and I wasn't able until the third set of these three top sets to really get it dialed in. Normally I go all the way down and get a pretty decent stretch reflex, but on this day I think I had rotated my feet out just a little more than I needed to, and also I needed to bring my stance in a little bit. When I point my toes forward a little more, there's a little bit less torque on my hip, and my knees will come forward a little bit more, which allows me to use more quad, but also more stretch reflex as I go all the way down in the hole. Now you'll see the same thing on this set. It was a little high, and as I watched the video footage back, I just realized that I needed to work on it. As I look at it now, I can see there was just a little bit too much weight into my heels at the start of the lift, and just not quite the best setup, which leads me to run into my hip a little early, which means depth suffers. Additionally, though, I'm not running my hamstring into my calf and getting that bounce out of the bottom of the lift, and that really helps things move better. On top of all that, I was dealing with some of my upper back issues. I just, for whatever reason, got pretty bruised up the last time I was doing squats, so it was still a little bit tender. I got in a better position, though, on this set, and it moved a lot better, though there is more forward knee travel. But you'll notice how my feet are pointed forward a little bit more, and my knees are traveling a little bit more forward, but the speed on these reps was much better than any of the other sets. Not that there was any more rest or anything in between, but this is probably closer to what I need to hit in competition. I then moved on to bench. The way that my coach, Hanny, at the Strength Athlete, is working with me and making this peaking program is I'll have a lot of singles with bench that lead up to some doubles or maybe a couple of singles. And then from there I'll do some drop sets afterwards on this last day. I had 420 scheduled, but I bumped it up 5 pounds just to get a 10 on there and round it out. These moved really well. The first set, I would say maybe RP 7.5 tops, and really, even though I didn't have a ton of rest, I think about 6 minutes rest, this set here I would put at RPE 7. The second rep here especially moved really well, almost no slowing. It's just smooth all the way through, RP 7. Then dropped back down for one single at 405, which moved very well, probably the best single that I had had of the day, and then finished off with a 3x3 with 385. And these moved okay, but actually by this time I was starting to get a little tired. I would take 3 to 6 minutes rest in between each of those singles, depending on how heavy they were. And so I'd just already been benching for a little while, and as I mentioned earlier, my upper back was still a little tired from squatting. And so some of these reps and back off weren't as good as I would have liked. There was a little bit of looseness in the bottom of the rep, a few times where you see my elbow waver back and forth. Anytime you see that, that's less than optimal. You'll see it there, how it's kind of kicking forward out of the bottom. The last rep was better. I then moved into my singles on sumo. I've really enjoyed this peaking for the deadlift. I do think that I was a little bit too bent over on some of these early reps, but I did dial it in a little bit better as the day went on. I was hoping 585 would move good, would break the floor easily without too much strain, and that the reps would be consistent in speed, if not accelerating all the way to the top. And that's exactly what I had on this day. I accelerated the lockout each time and was very happy with this day. Moved really well. 8 singles done, probably rest periods were maybe 40 seconds or so between the first 4 reps. Then I took about a 3 to 4 minute break, and then I finished the last 4 reps. Person stood in front of the camera on one of them, so there's only 7 included here. But really happy with these reps overall. Hips not bothering me too much. That rep was a little slower off the floor than I would like, but overall the form was good, and I think that was the 7th single. Moved into close grip bench for 4 sets of 3 at approximately RP 8.5. Was able to go 385 on these with fairly short rest periods. I mean, I wasn't doing them short on purpose or anything, but didn't need to have 10 minutes of rest to recover from any of this, which I was happy about. I really am trying to save some of that ability to recover for heavier weights and heavier singles that I do. because I want to be able to, in competition, even if they're running through the flights pretty fast, be able to fully recover. I did drop it back down though to 365 to make sure I didn't exceed RPE for the day, and was able to hold the bottom position on these for these last two drop sets because just felt pretty easy even though it was 365. Hoping to hit some heavier weights. I'm going to be talking with my coach to figure out just how high I can go on bench press, but looking to hit some big numbers in the coming weeks. Now, to continue on what I was talking about last week, I need to define some terms. What is science? Well, science is the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Now, that section there that says through observation means that you are observing it or understanding it through your senses. That is why empiricism is something that I've been talking about as well, because empiricism is a theory that all knowledge is derived from sense experience. And again, if you're observing something, you're observing it through one of your senses, whatever that is. Could be through your eyes, you're looking at them, so you're using sight. Could be taste, could be touch, and so on. Now, the question is, are there certain fields of study or certain questions that we can't answer through empiricism or through science, therefore, because we cannot observe them and study them? Well, the answer to that is yes. They're not questions so much about how things work or what makes things happen, but more the questions of why does it happen? And that's where issues of faith or of theology or of philosophy come into play that are not going to be rooted in empiricism, but that doesn't necessarily invalidate the question anyways. Just because something is not rooted in empiricism does not mean it's not a valuable question or something worth pursuing. It just means that the criteria for coming to a conclusion are going to be a little bit different. And we'll talk about that in the future. If you have any questions, as always, put them below. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Blessings.